Hi Roncha, welcome to the School of Bass podcast. Thank you so much for saying yes to this. I am very excited to talk to you. How are you doing? How are you doing today? And how was your day teaching at SAM?
Well, firstly, thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure and an honor to be part of your podcasts. Um, I am doing great, and I am currently at the Swarnabhumi Academy of Music near Chennai, and I had a very hectic teaching day. I taught for about 7 hours or so, straight up. So, yeah, it's fun though. It's fun. It's weird to be a professor about 10 months after graduating, but it's something.
No, but you carry a lot of experience. No, there's. It's not that you just went to a college, studied music, and you came out and you started teaching. You started playing piano and just getting involved with music at the age of about 4, if I'm correct.
Yeah, around well, yeah, 3. I started playing with my grandfather. Yeah, and
And
been
how
playing.
old are you right now?
I just turned 24 last week.
Epic, epic. So Ron, I mean, I was there in Sam very long ago. I think I was there in 2012, and things were very different that time. And I wanted to also, get in depth about Sam right now and what kind of culture is there right now. Because that time when we were studying, Prasanna was leading the school that time, and we had a lot of faculties coming and going, and the culture was a faculty would stick around about 4.5 months. Then the next one would come. Those were the semesters essentially. So now, how is SAM operating? Is there a curriculum in place? Are teachers also coming from outside India? Plus, there are teachers from within India. How is the school functioning right now?
So Sam right now is, from what I heard about like a couple of years ago, I think it's very different now. Now I think there's a lot of structure in the school now. There is no set curriculum for the subjects that I am teaching here. I don't know about the audio engineering program because that's a whole other, it's a different program altogether. But when it comes to harmony, ear training, and uh, arranging and composition and stuff like that, there's no set curriculum. But they asked me to kind of make the curriculum this semester. So I've noted down exactly what I taught every class. So hopefully this becomes like a set curriculum.
Do you find that having a set curriculum has advantages, or can it become a process which can slow a student's progress down? Because if you are kind of hands on engaging with the student one on one, then you kind of have the opportunity to enter their mind, see what's going on, what exactly the problem is. Then you kind of design a curriculum for them, a custom curriculum. So, what's
I,
your take
I
on
think
that?
I agree with set curriculums, and I like set curriculums. But that being said, I think it does not necessarily work that way with all students. Like making a curriculum means you're setting things and kind of you limiting things in a way. Like it limits the students' abilities in terms of, like, say over here we have harmony, like 2 levels of harmony, and I think harmony goes way beyond just what's comprehensible. And it would be great to kind of open things up and get into things that are not conventional as well. But unfortunately, due to lack of time and just the whole semester system thing, I think a set curriculum is necessary in a music college. Yes.
So, but there's another thing to this, that where certain students or certain people who are learning music and are inclined towards, let's say, R&B and soul, but then the curriculum dictates or suggests that we must study these set of jazz standards to understand music, and only then we should look into R&B and soul music. Do you think it has the potential to confuse a student at times, where the student might have gotten much more getting deeper into what he really loves, he or she really loves, versus
That's a great question, man. That's a great question.
studying the
Sorry,
curriculum.
I'll let you. Yeah.
So, or should a student basically study the curriculum, but also make time to study what he or she really, really loves?
So what I think is that a lot of the music that we're talking about, like R&B, soul, funk, a lot of hip hop, neo soul, pop, blues, all of this, a lot of it comes from jazz harmony, harmonically speaking. The thing is, the harmony that you would find in, say, a Stevie Wonder tune or a Michael Jackson tune or some, Luther Vandross or Whitney Houston or whatever. It's coming from the Great American Songbook style of writing, right? It's just not necessarily like an AAPA kind of a form. I think it's more. It's like a two verses, pre-chorus, chorus, that kind of like a song,
Intro,
right?
you have a verse, there's a pre-chorus, there's a chorus, it'll repeat, and there's a bridge. Then we have the chorus again and an outro, and the song gets over.
Correct. In terms of song form, I think it's a little different. But in terms of harmony, I think it all comes from the Great American Songbook, standards. So if a teacher is able to demonstrate how the Great American Songbook style of writing has influenced modern styles of music, then I don't think a student would be confused as to why we're studying this. That's what I feel. Like in my classes, I always try to make it a point to, always kind of look at two things. Look at something that's super relevant. I mean, that's super, like modern here, and something that was written in the 1920s, and look at how that 1920 tune influenced the tune that was written yesterday. Then the student knows where it's coming from.
At the moment when you're teaching, is it online lessons mostly while you're staying at SAM, or there are people living there in SAM with all the COVID norms in place?
It's an in-person semester, so everyone's here. No one's allowed to go out. I mean, I was traveling for gigs and stuff like that, but I had to get tested every time I came back. So they're quite strict about that. But I mean, they have to be so.
What kind of gigs have you been playing recently?
Most recently, I had a few wedding gigs early in the year, and then I was playing a few gigs in Goa with Aman Jagwani, its drummer, who went to Berkeley with me, and Anubha Kaul, singer from NMIMS from Bombay. Really, really cool musicians. And Shirish also, Shirish Malhotra on sax. And yeah, I've been trying to go out there and play,
So going to Berkeley, for you worked hard, of course, to get a scholarship. You got the scholarship. You spent so many years studying music, and then the A.R. Rahman scholarship, 100% scholarship, was awarded to you and took you to Berkeley. Now, Berkeley is a huge investment in itself, which is something I want to talk to you about, where a lot of Indian musicians or Indian students who want to pursue music think of education straight away. Like, okay, we're going to go abroad, study in Berkeley or MI. It's kind of two primary schools people are constantly looking at. But then there's the other side of it, where I just checked today before getting in conversation with you. The fee of the school, it was like about $75,000 a year, I think.
That's right.
So that's a lot of money. It's about 55 lakhs or something. And you do that for 4 years, that's like 2-3 flats in our country, which gives you passive income regularly, right? So some fake economics I'll talk to you, because I barely know much about economics, but what I know is that if you spend something, you better make it back, or rather make much more than what you spent. If you had to pay for the whole thing, or if anybody has to pay for the whole thing, do you think music as a career in a country has the potential to generate that kind of revenue and give it all back to you? Like, you've spent 1 CR, 1.5 CR studying at Berkeley, you come back, what can you do to make that money back?
Man, I think it's a very, very tricky situation. I think unless you find a way to kind of be in the industry and completely give yourself into it, and maybe then you'll get it back. Forget about making stuff over it. At least try to have whatever you spent back into your pocket. But at the same time, I would say that paying that much for an education like Berkeley, I think it is worth it. It is worth it because you just get so much out of it, right? Provided you want to go there and actually learn, you always go there and smoke weed and come back in like 4 years. That's the, and that happens. Don't get me wrong, man. That happens a lot. But if you go there with the right mindset and if you know what you want and if you do your homework at home and then get there, you can save money. In fact, if you come to like a school like Swarnabhumi or GMI or whatever music college in India, you go there and you get your basics right, you can save money by not doing those credits at Berkeley. Then you save and then you just go there and do the classes you like and come back.
So the experience is worth it, but one can minimize the expenses by being or absorbing whatever is available in our country. Just learn with
Yes.
people like you, study with the greats who are already here. I mean, you are here.
Like
Sanjay Devecha is here. I'm not one of the greats, but I'm doing what I
Of course.
can. Um, but Sanjay Devecha, Pranay Guru, you're here, and it's just lovely to have all these. They're really superior and supreme musicians altogether. They're legends, actually, all of them. And Sanjay is done the whole, the whole thing of playing in wedding bands, doing the regular gigs, and he's gone through the whole process that any musician goes through to season themselves. And he's done all that in the States. Then he's come back and started working here. So in terms of your homework, you studied through your childhood. You studied classical music. Then I heard the conversation with Arjun where you mentioned to him that you were driven to Shillong, about 4 or 5 hours away from your house, where you would get your lessons every weekend for jazz. Where I also heard that you studied Indian classical music first, and then it kind of went into the jazz direction. So all that practice is now kind of coming together. In your playing, we can hear it, we can feel things. There is deep influence. I don't know if it's influence or what it is, but when I hear you play, man, I mean, you hold me by feeling very strongly, very, very strongly. What is it that you have tapped into, if you can put your hand or finger on it, that this is what it was in my early days or a few years ago, that I had to think about while playing, or I had to think about music in a different way than people generally suggest? What is different that makes you emote so well on your instrument, that I experience feeling, not scales and not the chord change, and I'm always taken on a journey whenever you start playing a song?
Man, you're making me blush, man. I don't know what to say. It's oh man, I'm flattered. Firstly, I it's not a simple answer to that. The thing is, I always try to be myself. One of my professors at Berkeley, this is something that's going to stay with me forever. Right before the semester ended, Marko Djordjevic, the drummer, Marko Djordjevic. Anyway, he's an incredible musician, and I had an ensemble with him, and he said, "Be yourselves, because everyone else is taken." And I was like, man, and that kind of changed my perspective about playing music. I'm like, it's like, why do I want to sound like someone else? So why of course people are going to influence us. If you're checking someone out, I'm sure at some point you're going to be like, oh, people will come to you saying that, oh, I hear strong, I don't know, Bootsy Collins influence on your playing or whatever. And for me, it's like that too. But somehow my personality comes through in my music, and what I feel is because I'm not an emotional person. I actually, wait, let me not say that. Let me rephrase. I am an emotional person, but I don't emote as a person. I keep things within myself. I do not. Yes. I don't express myself too much. So when I play music, I think it just all comes out. Through it's a different channel. It's like, and it's not by choice. It just happens. It's not like I was like, I need to be more. I need to emote more when I play. It was never a concern for me. It was more like it just happened. So I'm very fortunate for that channel to be, open.
When you're saying be yourself, it because everybody else is taken. Now we are thinking about there's a process of transcription where we listen to somebody else, we try to emote or we try to imitate exactly what they're trying to do. This process where you say be yourself, there's a concept of transcribing yourself which I came across some time back, which really helped me, which basically meant that be able to play what you are thinking or feeling. So instead of constantly picking up tunes and constantly picking up solos, transcribe yourself. What are you hearing in your head? Because we get involved in this, I have to learn something else and then play it on my instrument, which makes me better, which basically has the risk of a disconnect that can happen between you and your instrument. Because end of the day, instead of singing it out, you're playing it out, right? You're doing it outside your body.
Right.
How did you develop that relationship? You're exactly able to precisely play runs that you're singing on the piano. How did you do that for yourself?
So I would listen to a lot of gospel music. I still do. And African American gospel music. So I would listen to Kim Burrell, I would listen to Kirk Franklin, I would listen to Ty Tribbett, I would listen to John P. Key, all these incredible gospel artists. And at a very early age, when I was about maybe 14, 15, I was really, really drawn to gospel music. And I heard them kind of like play runs on the piano while, and those runs were very similar to what they sang, and I saw that connect. It's like they sing something, and when they're playing the piano, they'll play a very similar thing, so kind of that made me think. So I started singing runs, and then I started playing them on the piano. And every time if I'm soloing over a standard, I always think of like the most singable runs, the most singable, most melodic. I'm not too concerned about sounding modern or sounding abstract or sounding, playing out or whatever, it's like, I try to play what I hear and then I play it, not the opposite, not the other way around. So
How does one practice that? Where should somebody who's listening right now, where should they start? And this is a beautiful process to go through, but would you have a first step kind of a recommendation that how to start doing this?
I would say take 5 notes. Take 5 notes and try to sing, try to make melodies out of those 5 notes with your voice, not on your instrument. If you play an instrument, just try to sing melodies using those 5 notes, right? And make sure these ideas, the melodic ideas, are super clear. Like, be confident about those ideas, like right. So like, I was confident about that idea. I knew what I wanted to sing just now, right? So when you get to that level of confidence with just 5 notes, then you start singing an idea and then put it on your instrument, right? You will make you know, people will make mistakes initially, like, you know, they'll fumble around, like, oh, like, but you might play another note, but try to remember the sound of that note, right? The 5 3 4 2 3 1 2, right? So remember the sound, try to like register that sound, and then every time you hear that sound, you know it's that note, you know. And then go on to more notes, then go on to the chromatic scale, and then go on to different intervals. And I think the sense of melody comes from listening to music. My sense of melody might be completely different from what your sense of melody is, right, Saurabh? It's like if someone listens to Indian classical music all their life, their sense of melody will be drawn towards melodies that sound like Indian classical music. Exactly. A different combination of notes, you know, all of that. So my sense of melody comes from the Great American Songbook, from jazz standards, from Disney, from church music, from a lot of jazz music as well, like bebop and modern jazz and stuff like that. So again, that's a part of being yourself. Like, you know, we're gonna have our own influences.
So when you study Indian music, there's a heavy Hindustani classical, particularly, or Carnatic music, heavy emphasis on ear training. Very, very heavy, right? How
Absolutely.
much, because I also come from a Hindustani classical background. I studied that first and then started studying Western music later. But when I stepped into Western music, everything converted into Sargam very conveniently. You know, it was kind of, okay, this is Sa, this is Ga, this is Komal Dha. So a sharp 11 was Tivrama and a flat 13 is Komal Dha. So brain was already working. The only thing I had to figure out was keys keep changing at times, and I need to be sure where the do is, and I need to just make relationships from there 90% of the times. So for you, when you switch from Hindustani classical education and you carry this special weapon with you of ear training and you step into the Western side of things, how much of a support is it for you? And do you suggest that instead of studying Western ear training, it's a good idea for any Indian musician to study Hindustani classical singing?
I would say keep an open mind about things. Like, you know, there's no one way to do things, I feel. You know, it's like someone studying Cuban music might feel the same way about Cuban music, you know. Or you know, it's always going to be, we'll all have our biases. But I think our language, yeah, exactly. Sure. I mean, when it comes to counting rhythms, I think that it's a fact that Konakol, it just makes things so much simpler. You know, that's a fact. You know, right? So, but with ear training, like harmonic ear training, I think knowing the sound of the notes is gonna be the same in all cultures, because it's at the end of the day, an A is an A, you know, or a C is a C. Now, how you memorize or how you internalize the sound of that, there is no right or wrong way. It's just, of course, there's ear training where you, like, you know, train your ear to detect pitches and intervals and chords and melodies and stuff like that. But also depends on what you're listening to, right? I think that plays a huge role. For me, Indian classical music wasn't such a strong part of my identity because I was really young when I was playing that. And I couldn't really get into it, which is why I kind of switched to Western classical. But I think Indian classical music is so melodic, but it's a different sense of melody, you know, like the phrasing, the intervals, the scales, it's very different. So I don't know, man. It's a very interesting question.
I think the open mind kind of answers it. Good to experiment with then.
Definitely.
It did help me a lot, though. I mean, I
Mm.
was really wanting to be in the Indian classical culture for long, but got had to step out, switch, trying to do other things.
Mm.
But if I think about music anytime, if I'm making something or I have to break down anything, it just subconsciously now breaks down itself. Like a major nine, it translates in sargam in my head. It doesn't translate as
Got.
solfege necessarily, but I have to. That's the second thought. Then
Mm.
everything else is a second thought.
Right.
But does I think having your own language is important. That what will you call which thing? Like how you explained it in numbers just now. You sang the whole melody in numbers. It's just labeling stuff. Label.
Exactly. It's putting names to sounds at the end of the day, right? And what someone does first, like what like you had the Indian classical thing going on for you initially, like before you got to know the Western system. Now you will always have that bias because it works for you better because you learned that first, right? So I think it's the same way with everyone else. It's like for me, I prefer the. Firstly, I didn't even know solfege before I went to Berkeley. I just knew like do, a deer, a female. Yeah, that's the all the solfege I knew. Once I went there, once I went to Berkeley, everyone's like, oh wait, where's the do? Oh, where's the male? Where's the fee? Where's the C? I'm like, man, what is going on? Like, I just knew that was an A flat. I just knew that was a C, the G or A or whatever. And then I realized the importance of knowing syllables and kind of naming notes with syllables because it helps out a big deal.
Yeah, it's easier to change keys. There's so much more you can do. So
Absolutely.
on the rhythmic side of things, with musicians, piano players, or any other instrumentalists,
Mm.
the thing of being able to dance to somebody's playing, being able to groove to somebody's playing, right?
Mm.
Your comping is beautiful, sounds gorgeous. I can dance to it. I can, uh, you know, just celebrate essentially listening to you comp to yourself while you're soloing, playing a tune, or playing for a singer.
Mm.
So there's a time feel aspect to it, right? You are switching time fields, you are trying to create a certain kind of swing to different styles of music, different genres. So, do you remember when you got sensitive to time feel and how you create time feel for yourself, or if you have to tap into a certain kind of a swing, a certain kind of a groove where you want to make your body move in a specific manner, you want the music to groove in a specific manner? You remember when you got into that zone, or when you got to know it for yourself?
Very vaguely, but I was uh, I was playing classical music for a long time, about 15 years or so, and I could never dance to like Rachmaninoff, you know what I mean? Or I could never I just couldn't. I love the music, but I could never dance to it. But one day, my dad gave me I think he gave me a Chick Corea Romantic Warrior. You know that, the record? Um, and he gave that record to me, and I played that. I must have been what, maybe 7, 8. And I heard that record and I was like, what is going on, like, and but there was this weird sense of like there's some time like I could like move my body to it. I was like, man, this is happening to me, like this is for the first time. I'm feeling this, like, why am I doing that, and automatically, like, it's not like I was trying to dance or something. No, like who would want to try to dance to Romantic Warrior? But like it was just it was it was grooving, yeah. So I was like, man, I don't like this music, but I like the fact that it's making me move. And then of course now I love them, but back then when I was a kid I was like, what is this? But after that I started listening to more jazz records, and then I started listening to Oscar Peterson, and Oscar Peterson was swinging hard. Like, forget about him playing with the band, like just by himself, and he's always ahead of the beat, and everything is like, and it's crazy, and that's when I felt like that bounce, and for me, fortunately, I was able to go to the piano and kind of play similarly. I mean, not what he played, but like even if I played like something like slow, I could still feel like it had that bounce, you know. And then obviously I had to work on it a lot, but that swing feel came to me quite naturally, and that's a
How did
blessing, I think,
you,
because
sorry, I'm cutting you, but how did you work on the time feel aspect particularly? How, when you say you worked on it?
yeah, I would try to play by, because see, I was in Assam, and there is literally no one to play with there even now. It's like, so I ended up playing alone and solo piano, right? And everyone kept telling me to practice with the metronome. So I was like, okay, I'll practice with the metronome. And then I would end up taking up standards and put the metronome on 2 and 4. And I would just comp myself and play the melody, take a little solo, whatever. And I just made it a point to stay in time with the metronome, you know? And that's how my sense of being stable came. And then I took a lesson with Taylor Eichste, the piano player Taylor Eichste, in 2017, fast forward. And he showed me something that blew my mind. He's like, here is the standard. I'm going to play it. I'm going to take a solo over it. One chorus being being on the beat. One chorus being behind the beat. And the last chorus being ahead of the beat. So I was like, okay, good luck. And then, and he did it like it was like he was taking a sip of his tea or something, you know. It's like so easily, like, and I just stayed there and I was like, how did you do this? He's like, the key is to keep the left hand on the beat, and the right hand, you know, messing around with being ahead or behind. And then I started practicing that, and now I'm getting into like being ahead of the beat or behind the beat, or on the beat I can. Being ahead of the beat it's hard. Being behind the beat is easier than being ahead, I think, for me. You know, but that's how I practice time feel, with a metronome and trying to manipulate time.
Wow. You play multiple genres. You play Ron and Spoon, right? That's the name of the album.
Yes.
So that would come under, what would you call that genre of music? Electronica? No.
Yeah,
Electronic jazz?
electronic jazz. Yeah, I would say like what's the name? Like it's kind of like neo soul. Yeah, electronic neo soul, a little bit of R&B perhaps.
So what I want to know from you is how do you study a genre of music, particularly? Like if you have to study a specific genre, when you're saying funk works like this, blues works like this, what's your process? What are your steps to learn a genre of music?
I learn a genre by listening to people. If I want to get into funk, I'll listen to you know, P Funk like all day, and I'll see what's going on. You know, what's the keyboard player doing? What's the relationship between the keyboard player and the drummer? Like how are they? What's the dynamic? Is the keyboard player playing rootless voicings? Is the keyboard player playing like just like, you know, is just like randomly comping, like very rhythmic? I'll dig deep into what I want from what I want to know. You know, first I think getting to know a genre also comes with what I want to know about the genre. You know, like it's like getting to know a genre. Sure, it's kind of generalized. Now, what do I want to do? Do I want to be able to play funk? Okay, if yes, then I want to know what the keyboard player is doing, because that's my role. Now, then I'll see what the keyboard player's relationship is with the singer, or with the bass player, or the drummer, or, you know, guitar player. And accordingly, I will come to a general conclusion in my head. This is how it works, and then I'll try it out. Whatever happens, happens.
So that's like one aspect. Like you picked up one song, you went into it, and then you try to play it back basically. So how many times would you do this for yourself? Because we also need to know at some point that okay, I'm comfortable. This is my goal. I want to learn 10 songs, 10 funk songs, and I want to be able to play them. And then maybe I want to compose. How do you decide that this genre is something I kind of know and I can move on to my next goal?
I never really put a cap like that on something. I was like, I was always skimming through stuff, but at the same time, whatever stuck out to me the most. Like, I can't say that I'm a good funk keyboard player. You know what I mean? I can get by at a gig maybe, but I'm not saying it's my thing. You know what I mean? Which automatically suggests that I have not gone as deep as I need to get in order to be called a funk keyboardist. You know what I mean? But you can say that I got into jazz music enough, or I got into gospel music enough, because I spent more time with those genres, because that fascinated me the most. So we are all inclined to certain forms, and I accept that. And that I can't be the best, or I can't get so deep into everything. I would love to. Maybe in 60 years I will be able to like say that okay, I've dug deep enough in almost all genres or whatever. But yeah, I'm kind of trying to narrow down on things a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's also important to know what you are inclined towards at the level of feeling because, at times, because, musicians are kind of broken toys, right? You're running away from something or the other and then sitting in the room and playing music, basically.
Right.
Um, not all of us, but yeah, I mean, we do have something else going on in our lives, which we prefer. Okay, let's play music. This feels good. This makes me express myself better. So let's do this. Um,
Yeah.
but uh, this feeling of that, hey, I love this particular genre or I love these set of songs, and embracing that and going after that is something we would have as children. Like we used to love Iron Maiden, for example. We never knew that it's a motion of the minor chords going down or triplets are being played. Loved it so much and attended to that feeling that I gotta go after this because I feel
Right.
good. And I think as we grow older, no, we kind of start looking for answers outside constantly. That what is my, what is Google suggesting? The first 100 standards to learn, right? Now, how can a list suggest to you what you should love? I mean, that's the place where,
Yeah.
one should explore where when he or she listens to jazz, they just basically tap into a place where they can understand or exactly recognize that this is the song I love and I want to kind of get deeper into this. So Ron, I know you've had a long day. I just want to ask you one last thing. Journey has been beautiful for you. You've released a couple of albums, played amazing venues here abroad. What's your eventual plan? Like, where do you want to project your life? Are you still kind of letting that vision be like on hold, that I'll see a year later, 2 years later, what I exactly want? Or do you kind of have something in mind that I want to be big, like, let's say, Chick Corea or Keith Jarrett, or want to have my own trio and I want to travel the world? What is the plan like?
So the long-term plan, well, the short-term plan is to move to Europe. Um, that's my short-term plan. Like, hopefully by the end of this year, I'm able to move to Europe, because I want to be in Europe and not in America right now. But eventually, I do see myself in the US. Once things get better, once the chances of me getting shot randomly lessens. Yeah. Yeah, man, yeah. Anyway. But I see myself in the US eventually. In terms of how I see my career moving in terms of music, As much as I love jazz music, I don't want to kind of just do that. You know what I mean? I'm a firm believer in just keeping an open mind about everything. You know, so I don't want to like I earlier like a year back I was like I'm not going to teach until I'm like 65 years old, and here I am teaching at SAM. You know, so I've learned my lessons. So I see myself being on tour with pop acts, with R&B acts, with big people. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But obviously, that's not going to be my gig. My gig's going to be, you know, my own project that I start with people I meet, with my own jazz piano trio, maybe like a keyboard and drum duo or something, maybe my own piano and DJ set or something like that. You know, I've thought about such hypothetical situations.
Sounds
Yeah.
good, man. Sounds like life is open to exploring and experimentation, and that's how it needs to be. At you have the advantage of age, anyways, and you know you've got all skill, feel, and all the good things happening to you, which I personally really value your presence in this country, and I really, really love everything that you do. And I don't find myself saying all of this very often because there are a lot of you know people who are involved in music in the industry, but there are only a few who are actually artists that I can say that this person makes me feel something, and he can make me cry, he can make me tap into my emotions. So it really means a lot. Thank you for doing all the beautiful things that you do, and I'm sure the students you are teaching are gonna be hitting some big sixers eventually, and they're gonna rock the world nicely, just like you.
Oh man, Saurabh, thank you so much for having me, man. I really can't thank you enough for saying such wonderful things, and makes me emotional, man. The next thing I put up on Instagram is gonna be dedicated for you, bro. Man, most definitely. Okay, okay, done.
Just be on hold for a second. Thank you guys for coming to the podcast. I'll see you guys next week. Bye bye.